Hello, welcome along. Nigel with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Well, actually, I'm Nigel, and this is Nigel's Modelling Bench, because this is where I do my modelling. So, here we are now, what we part 12 now, I think, isn't it? Part 12 of the build of this beauty. This is the Airfix Bf109 G-5 G-6, and it's a beauty. And we are basically, this one's going to be the captured RAF version, all closed up. I'm thinking I may have the canopy open, I don't know, we'll see. But I'll probably have it all closed up. So, when I left you in part 11, we got the wheelbase all assembled and everything. I've now given the wheelbase a coat of the RMO2, XF22 basically from Tamiya. And I've painted those back pieces in leather. So they look a bit better, and they've had a brown wash over them as well, just to sort of try and pick up some of that detail. I've just noticed there we've got puppy hair in there, which is a shame. So there we go. Well, it's not a shame because it's gone now, but it was a shame. So there we go. So that's that done. Remember these flaps for the radiators? They're all done. We sanded down the outsides, got them all nice. So they're all done. Exhausts, I've now given these a black-brown wash. So they're looking pretty good. Okay, I think you'll agree they're looking pretty nice. We've got to do the black charcoal on the end of them, and we've got to paint these bits as well. We've also done here, we've got these are the covers for the radiators. I managed to chop them on the floor when I was doing the wing. And you can see I've got this little stay in there, this little support that helps the actuator for the flap there on the radiator cover, and then the radiators themselves. What I've done here, if you didn't see part 11, I've gone away from the instructions. What they tell you to do is build the radiators into those boxes, but what I've done is left them separate so they can be painted separately. And as you know, the fuselage is done there and the engine's over there. So we're all looking good. The other thing I've done is drawn out these undercarriage legs. If you remember back in about part 8 or part 9, we put the undercarriage legs together, and then we sort of just basically dealt with you know, discussing why we've done it. I've put metal rods in here, not because we need them for strength, but because we need them for location. The way they would have you build the kit is put this part in, which has got half of the undercarriage leg on it, and then you fit the undercarriage legs after your models all painted and everything. You've got a seam to deal with. I'd rather deal with the seam now. So what I've done, I've drilled these out to 2.1 millimeters. I have a 2mm brass tube there. I've used tube rather than rod, because then if it becomes a little kinked, is that the right one? No, that is the wrong one, because the oleos go to the rear. So this one is going on there, like so, and then that is going to go up in there, and that's how the undercarriage leg will go. And you can see now we've got a seam. Have I done this right? We've got a seam there because I've got a bit of a gap. I've got to do some more sanding. But basically we'll have a seam there. In fact, I'm going to sort that out now. So what I'm going to do is just take a sanding stick and remove some of that white plastic card. And then we'll put that on like that. That's the wrong one, so put that over there. Put that on like that. And then, as you can see, we've still got a bit more to sand off of there. That's actually, is it the wrong way around or the right way around? I'm not sure now. That is the right way around. So yeah, we've got some more plastic to take off of there. And then if we end up having to adjust the length of the undercarriage leg, we can just put another plastic shim in there to space it out. But basically that is how it's going to go. And as you can see, that gap there is reducing. So all we'll have to do, we'll have this undercarriage leg attached to the aircraft. This will be separate. After we've painted everything, we can put this on, glue it on, and then just run maybe a tiny little slither of Mr. Surfacer in there, maybe put a bit of Mr. Surfacer on there before we glue it in, and then just mop it off, and then just, you know, just go in and spray that area, which will be easy to do. So we've just got a seam around there to deal with now, rather than the whole seam going up the side. And also, as a bonus, we've got stronger undercarriage legs, although you don't need it. So that one's going to fit that one, and that one is going to fit that one, like so. Okay, so that's all looking good. Right, so there's our undercarriage legs done. So that's all great. Right. Next thing was to get these wings together. So I'm going to put those undercarriage legs parts over there. You can see in the instructions we've done the slats. There's been a lot of discussion about slats. Somebody told me they're spring loaded. Somebody said they're operated by the pilot. So I started looking into it and I found a very concise, actually from a German manual. They were apparently just literally sat there, and the way the air ran over them was determined whether they were closed or open. So in certain situations they'd stay closed, in other situations they'd stay open. It was a bit of a pain in the ass because apparently sometimes one would open and one would close, and it would really throw the plane off balance and everything. But they weren't spring loaded, they were just literally just sat there and able to fall in and out. Apparently if the ground crew pushed them back in, then they would stay there. And the only reason I can think that the ground crew would push them in is when they're hanging out, they're probably right at the right height to catch your head on the corner, so they probably just push them back in. So I've got my slats in the in position. When we do the next one, I haven't sanded out that bit of a sink mark. When we do the next one, I'm going to have them out. So there we go. Right, so it doesn't matter, you can have them in or out. When they're sat on the ground, it can be either. But I have yet to find a single picture. I say that, I haven't noticed a single picture that shows them with them out on the ground. So that was why I asked the question. Now here there's a slight sink mark there because of this thick moulding on here for the pitot tube. So I'm just going to blend this out. You can see I put some super glue in there. So we'll just blend that out. It is a tiny sink mark, but I just had some glue there, so I thought I'll do it. Careful not, we've got some raised detail on that rib there. Be careful not to touch that. Here we go, and then we'll just get our skinny sponge and run over that like that. So there we go, that's our sink mark gone. You can see there's a bit of a witness around it as well. So there we are, that's that sink mark gone. Not that it would have probably noticed anyway. So right, the other thing I've done here is fitted this panel. Only one version, I think it's version D, has the, is it moraine antenna, which I think was a late addition, because certainly I know the K4's got it. So this, on this one, if you jump forward in the instructions to, where are we here, step 176, you can see A, B, C and E has this blanking panel, and then one version D has that clear panel, which is where the moraine antenna comes out. So there we go. So that panel's been put in there, filled around with super glue and then sanded flush. So hopefully when we give it a coat of primer, that'll just disappear. It'll just be a flat panel, there'll be nothing there at all. So now we are ready to actually get these wings glued together, I think. So what I'm going to do is just lightly sand over here to remove the paint. Okay, so that should be good. Do the same on here. We'll put those exhausts out of the way so we don't get them covered in stuff. The same on there, and I'm going to do the same on here. Okay, just to remove the paint. I'm not worried about this area here because I'm not going to glue those anyway. So this is basically going to go on, and it's going to sit down like so. So I want that to glue down, but I don't think I'm going to worry about scraping back any paint. I think what I'll do is pull it forward slightly and then just give it a little scratch. And then what we can do is with a radius blade we can just remove some of the paint from there. And we'll do the same on the other side. So put the wing on, pull it forward, give it a scratch, and then if we scrape away on the scratch, that should be directly underneath where we're going to glue it. The reason I've painted all this here grey-green is because that's going to be visible through the radiator, I think, through the radiator vents. So the other thing I'm going to check, I noticed when I was dry fitting this there was some flash on these ends. There was a little bit of flash on these ends, so I'm just going to check, make sure they're nice and clean. Right, so So now at the stage we can put this together. Now you can see when I push this together here, I'm having a little bit of a gap problem there. And it's because that pin is extremely tight. So I am just going to sand down that pin. I'll see what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove some paint from there as well. I'm just going to scrape up the sides of that pin because it is very tight. And what I want to do here is dry fit both lower wing halves before I glue either of them, because I don't want to be... See, I'm flapping this wing around now and it's going to catch things. That's gone together a lot better now. We have a little bit of an issue coming here, getting that together. That's probably the same as the other side. It's the front of this spar. Just going to cut that down, that rib, sorry, not spar. And that should help it to close up. Yeah, there is an issue here. I've had the same on the other side. So what I'm going to do is the same as the other side. I'm going to sand this. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, if it's something I've done or if it's the kit. But either way, we're builders, not assemblers. So this is what we do to make our models fit together. Okay, that's pretty much gone together now. I'm going to sand some more. I'm going to scrape some off of here, off of the leading edge. I think it's the leading edge that's doing the problem. I think it's the leading edge of this rib is the problem, so you might want to sand that off before you put your wing together. Or perhaps dry fit it all with just that rib in there. So I think that's what causes the issue. Come on, jump in the right place. Bloody thing. Go on. Right. There we go, that's acceptable now. That's cool. That is a bit of a squeeze down there. I don't know why, but it does. You can see the wing is popping out there, so what we'll do is we'll put a clamp on that. I don't quite know what is actually holding it away. Is it that lock on there? Okay, we use a peg to hold that in place when we glue the wing, but I don't really want to have to glue it to that slat. I don't know what's actually, I think it's actually the shape of the wing itself. But there we go, so that's gone together lovely. We can glue all down that back edge and the tip's gorgeous. Right, so we'll do the same on this side. I'm going to scrape away some paint from here. All right. You need to make sure it all kind of engages, because you can see here we've got a gap there. That needs to go down so that it lays with the belly pan. So what's stopping that going down? I do believe we're in Hellcat territory here. I'm wondering if I fitted this piece wrong. I'm wondering if I fitted this piece slightly twisted that way, because it's sticking up proud on there. So I'm going to sand this down. Like so. You can see the benefits of all this dry fitting, guys. There we go, that's closing up a bit better now, but still not fully. We've got the same as the Hellcat here, and we've got this groove here that panel has to fall into, and I have a feeling that panel, this area here, is wider than the groove. This is exactly the same as this you had on the Hellcat, but there's no doubt that I fitted it wrong. So I'm just going to scrape some plastic away to thin that panel out. I'm also going to give it another sand to bring everything down. There we go. Some of you will be finding this very boring. Some of you will be thinking, I'm watching this like a fine-tooth comb because I'm going to have to do this online. You see, if you look at this side, this one's going in beautifully. This one's got that gap. It's like it doesn't want to go over. Okay, so what we'll have to do now is take some plastic off of the front. Not too much, because we don't want to expose grey plastic. We don't have to go in there and paint it again. There we go, that's going down now. With a squeeze, it's pulling it down, so that's good. Right. At the end of the day, if we have to, we'll have to sand that and re-rivet it to get it flush with the belly pan, but it looks like it's going in. I'm tempted to just take a little bit more off of there. And then we'll scrape. Scrape some material from there, and we'll scrape some from there as well. There we go. You can hear it actually click in now. Lovely. Right, so I think I had it turned slightly that much, way too much, which made it sit higher. But also, there's no doubt about it, it was too thick to go in that groove. This side fits beautifully. So there we go. Okay. So as you can see, once that's clamped in, that's going to glue in lovely. Right. This one's all good. We got that again. We got that little tiny gap there. I'm not going to worry about that. Whoops. Just drop the wing. Wing tips, lovely. So we'll go together down the back here. We do have a slight gap on that one actually. So what I'm going to do, just like the other side, I'm going to sand over the top here. See if that's made any difference. Yeah. Okay, so bear that in mind when you're assembling your wings. What you might want to do is put them in and then fit the wing and squeeze it into position to make sure they sort of rock into the right position. But they're actually keyed, so you can't put them in the wrong position. But I've got that one. You can see that one there where I'm pointing. That lug is sort of rotated that way as much as it can be, so perhaps pull it back a little bit. But here we go. I'm going to maybe sand this a bit as well. just to sort of help everything fit together. Right, so now make sure we've got no plastic dust anywhere, because you can guarantee as soon as you start, because I'm going to have to give this all a gloss coat and wash and everything, and as soon as we start spraying, that plastic debris will come out. You can hear that clicking into place now, so that's really good. Right, so I'm going to start with the ordinary extra thin. I'm not going to use quick setting. I'm going to get some clamps out. We'll do one and then I'll do the other one off camera. I'm also going to need some of my lovely Mr. Hobby High Tack 10mm tape. This is the orange one. It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so we've got our Mr. Surfacer. We don't use Mr. Surfacer to glue wings together, right? So we've got that there. So I'm just going to put a drop there and a drop in the end there. Alright, and then this one here I'm going to put in position. Give it a good old dose of cement, and then I'm going to put a peg on it to hold that down. Just like that. Right, now that radiator, I'm not sure if it's supposed to touch the wing or not. Yes, it is, because that okay, so I'm going to put some cement here. I'm going to put a drop there, and then another peg on there to hold that in. So that's the inner end of the wing all dealt with now. Okay. Now I'm tempted to leave that rather than risk disturbing it. I've got to take Dottie to the vets. Don't worry, it's only for annual injections. She's absolutely fighting fit and brilliant. I've got to take her in 40 minutes. So I think what I'll do is I'll do the same on this side. I'm just going to do these inner edges. I'll put a peg on there as well, hold that down. Which means I'll need another one on the other side. Okay, this side fits much better than the other. So what I'm going to do here is drop a cement in there. And a drop of cement in there. So notice I'm using lots of cement because I want a nice strong joint. I'll be very careful with this peg because you can see I've got a drop of cement there on the surface. I'm not going to touch it. If I just let it dry, it will just dry and go away. If I touch it, it will make a mark in the plastic. I think what I do is put, no, I won't. I'll just hold it with my fingers. I need to put some glue around this leading edge here. Okay, now if I put a peg on there, you can see what happens. It pulls it open. We've got a slight amount of misalignment there. The location pin is causing us to misalign that. It's holding the lower wing just ahead, but I'm not worried about that because we're going to be sanding it anyway. Okay, and I'm going to put some cement into there. And then with the tape, now the glue is sort of gelled off. Just going to pull that around and hold that together. And then I can get a closed peg onto there and hold. I'm holding that area there. It's not the leading edge, it's this I'm holding down. And I want to hold this back edge down. And I'm going to put some cement in there, just a drop, and then a drop in there. And then we'll put a peg on here to hold that, and then we'll put one down there to hold that. There we go. Right, so as you can see, we've got the inner ends of the wings glued on. So that's all looking good. Right, and guess what I'm going to say now? I'm going to leave that to dry. But in the meantime, what we can do is take our radiators, and here I've got some industrial dirt from Modeller's World. If you remember, I announced in another video that Rob was in talk with Modeller's World about bringing the products over. Modeller's World only sell direct to customer, so they don't deal with any distributors. So unfortunately, if you want their products, you have to go and get them yourself from, I think they're in Poland, which is unfortunate. But who knows, they may change their mind. But this is basically an oil wash. I think Dottie's going to bark. And it's been in there quite a while, so it's sort of thickened up a bit. So I'm just going to put another drop in there. And what I'm doing is just brushing this on here willy-nilly. And then we'll leave it for an hour to dry. And then go over the cotton bud and remove the surface. Yes, I've painted these radiators in LP48 sparkling silver, so they're really bright and garish. And then what I'll do is I'll give them a flat coat and they'll look great. I need some more. It's great stuff, this wash. It's a shame you can't get it over here. It's like an oil wash, but it doesn't smell at all. It dries really fast. It can be removed with odourless thinners or lighter fluid. It's bloody brilliant. Okay, so there's our radiators done. Brilliant, right. So there we go. Okay. And there we are. So we'll leave those for, well, it's going to be about 3 or 4 hours I'm going to leave them because I've got to go out. But it doesn't matter how long you leave them, you can leave them as long as you like. And then what we'll do is just go over the cotton bud and just remove the excess. And in the meantime, I'll just leave these to dry. I'm sort of tempted to work on this leading edge, but I want to make sure this all dries undisturbed first. Because the thing is, if we don't get that join there correct, when we put the belly pan on, it won't fit properly with the wings. I'm really hoping Airfix will do a K4, so we can do the American captured one where it's got all the different coloured panels. Because if you remember, towards the end of the war, Germany really had nothing. They were running out of oil, petrol, metal. They had nothing. They were really, really struggling. And at the end of the day, like if you look at a TA-152, they don't even paint the underside of the wings. They do the leading edge. That's it. They leave the rest in bare aluminium. So, yeah, they must have been really struggling towards the end of the war. So, rumour has it anyway. The other thing we can do is when we do these leading edges, we can clamp on here. But what we mustn't do is clamp here, because what happens then is you can see what happens if you clamp a wing where it's not supported. It opens up the joint. You can see it there on the wingtip. We squeeze it, so you've got to be really careful. That's why I use the tape to hold it all together. But what you must do with the tape is put the glue in, let it sort of gel off so it's too thick to wick under the tape, and then put the tape on. If you put the tape on first and the glue, it's likely to wick under, it's likely to get under the tape. So you don't want to be doing that, do you? Right, so there we go. I've just noticed I've left a bit of flash on that edge on there. That probably explains why the radiator fits so tightly on this wing. Right, I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so here we are now, a few hours later. Take the fuselage off and you can see we have got many pegs on the wing, and basically this has been glued up for now for a few hours, so these pegs can all come off, and the only reason they're on there is I wanted to make sure that this trailing edge ended up nice and straight, and that there was no warpage or anything in it. Something I'm a little concerned about, and I hope it's not me, I hope it's a sort of error in the kit or whatever. You can see that here, if I show you here, if you can see it, that the lower wing on both sides has a slight overlap with the upper wing. So, I mean, obviously it'll just sand out, but I'm hoping it's not something I've done wrong. Leading edge, all glued. Obviously I haven't glued around these slats. You can see this is still all loose. I don't want to glue it because I want to leave the gap there, because that's what there would be with those leading edge slats. So there we are. So we can look at that there, get the tape off and see where we go. Something I do want to show you is here, another boo-boo. When you're gluing the leading edge, you hold it together like this, you put the cement in there and it goes into the gap of the slat and into your finger, so you end up with a glue mark on the wing there. So yeah, be careful of that. Whoops, never mind, eh? Quick sanding and quick running over with the sanding stick and it'll be absolutely fine. So there we go. So there's our wings glued together. Where's my tweezers? Here they are. I get behind this and get this tape pulled off of here. Dottie's been to the vets. She's also been to the pub and had her sausage, which she's very happy about. She's had her injection, and now she's sort of a bit, how should we say, dazed and confused. She's a bit knocked out from her injection, so I'm sure she'll be fine again tomorrow. Okay, so we've got the leading edge all glued up, all nice and dry, all done, ready for sanding and any filling or whatever we need. And then the next part in the instructions calls out for us to fit this to the fuselage on those square lugs. And as you can see, as we've looked at before, it's a bloody gorgeous fit. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that right away, because everything here now is really solid. I'm tempted to kind of deal with this leading edge thing. In fact, I'm going to leave it a bit longer because it's only been glued together for about, what is it now? It's only been glued together for about 6 or 7 hours, so I'm tempted to leave that and sand it tomorrow. So I will see you back then. We can see that everything is looking good. The little recesses there for the radiator are looking good. So yeah, right. See you back in a second. Alright, it's another day, and as you can see, we're all done. So I went round with some, I glued all this together, had it all pegged together as you saw last night. I went round with some super glue, filled all the seams, and everything's come out lovely. So all very nice. Bit concerned about you can see here, the lower wing appears to be slightly longer than the upper wing. And I'm kind of thinking I've done something wrong. So I guess the best way to check that will be to get this belly panel and see how well this fits. So let's have a quick look. Because it could be that that's the way the kit is made. There's a very slight error in the tooling, which, you know, isn't unheard of. It could be that the upper wing shrunk more than the lower wing when it was cooling. It could be a million different reasons, but basically I want to know why, and I want to know, well, I don't really care why, I want to know if it's going to be okay. And the truth, the proof in the pudding will be when I fit this. If I've got great big gaps down the sides, then it means I've put the lower wing on too far out. If it's perfect, then it's a size / shrinkage issue. Okay, so we've got some lovely detail on here. We've got raised hinge detail and rivet detail. So here we go, moment of truth. That is going to pop on there. Okay, we've got 2 little cutouts there. They're going to go over those tabs. So that is going to go like that. And it's a perfect fit. It just sits down in there beautifully. So yeah, it must be a shrinkage issue then, because, or a size issue, because that is fitting in there lovely. If anything, it needs a little bit sanded off it because it's a bit tight. It keeps springing back out. You can see we've got these raised ribs here. So that's, I'm glad I spent the extra time to get that part of the wing good, because otherwise that wouldn't be parallel there. That's going to come down at the back, fitting like that. Look, absolutely gorgeous. A little bit of filler in there, a bit of sanding. Again, we've got that raised panel there. Be careful of that. We've got this here. I'm not sure what that is, because I washed this. I'm not sure. It almost looks like it's got something on it. It's a bit weird. I'll get some of that panel wipe on there in a minute. It almost looks like I've put a load of extra thin on there, but it's not. Weird. Right, okay, so so there it is. So it is absolutely fine. So that's good news. I'm going to grab, where has it gone? There it is. Here is my panel wipe that Annie got for me. Thank you very much, Annie. This is this is a Modeller's World product. It's basically, to tell you the truth, it's basically panel wipe. So if you have a local body shop, or you know somebody who works in a body shop, give them an old thinner's bottle or something and ask them, make sure you clean it out properly, and ask them to get you a drop of panel wipe. I'm sure they'll be able to do it, because you don't want to go and buy 5 litres. I don't know what that is. It's in the plastic, clearly. You can see it on there now. It's really weird. Hopefully it'll cover up with paint. I can't feel anything. It's only visual. It's almost like there was a load of mould release in one area of the tool that's actually infiltrated the plastic or something. But luckily this is the RAF one, so you know, we're not really too worried about it, because it's going to have thick layers of paint on it anyway, the real aircraft, and it'll all be clean and everything, and not too weathered. I'm worried that if I put a wash on there, it would pick up in that. Anyway, there we go. So that's all good. So really happy with that. I haven't glued the slats to keep the accurate gaps. There we are. As I say, be careful with this. I was holding that down, holding that together, and gluing the leading edge, and then realised that the glue had capillaried under my fingers, so be careful of that. Oh, the other thing I've done, I literally got the panel line, put the knife in the panel line, and just run it round. Okay, and that'll give you the panel line. And I've also got a little riveter and just run over the rivets. So now you'll see when I come in with a sponge, and I get the sanding dust going in there, you can see the panel lines and the rivets. Maybe you can't, there's not enough dust on the sanding sponge, but they are there, I can assure you. So that's always a good thing to do on your aircraft, to finish them off nicely. You know, carry on the panel lines round, carry on the rivets round. You can see them there. You can see the rivets there, going all the way around. So that's that. Right, I have made a discovery. The next thing to do actually is fit the wing to the fuselage. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. We've got the tail feathers to do as well. Yes, I will do that, and then we'll get these undercarriage leg parts in, get this bulkhead in, and get all this area around here sprayed up. Okay, so there's one other thing we got to do, isn't there? We did this yesterday, so that was like I don't know, 18 hours ago, 20 hours ago. So you can see that Modeller's World wash is on there, on those radiators. I've got a cotton bud, and I can literally just go over there and I can remove all the excess and just leave the industrial dirt, which is basically the same colour as Starship filth. We'll just leave the industrial dirt in there, and that will keep our radiators looking lovely. You can do that with any black oil wash. You can go with it, and if it won't come off, just get a little bit of odorless thinner on your cotton bud, wipe it off. Okay, so now that will sit in these radiators. And I want to put these in because it will protect those little pegs. So this one is port, and this one is port. It's going that way round with the tab at the front. There we go, so there's our radiators now. So you can see doing it that way has made it a lot easier because we don't have the any masking or worried about glue or anything. So we'll go down here. There we are. There we go. That's that done. So we've got some clips to put away, and then I'm going to show you something which some of you will go, oh, well spotted, Nige. Right, as you know, this is going to be the RAF version. If you look online for pictures of this aircraft, 15270 I think it is, in its captured state, freshly painted on an RAF base, you will notice that it has no machine guns in the up here, and it probably has no cannon either. The machine guns have been removed, and this is all this hole where the machine gun sticks out has been faired over. So this is the part. Where are we? Okay, so this is part Q24. Alright, so as you can see, that will go onto the side of the engine there normally. Alright, and then when you open this, it leaves the gun where it is, and when you shut it, it will sort of come in like that and close up the gap. So if you are doing the RAF version and you're doing it with the engine on display, you need to cut these off of your engine, alright, and perhaps cut off those frames as well, because they wouldn't have left the frames on the engine. And then what I'm going to do is glue this into the back of here. As you can see, it's quite a nice little fit actually. So I'm just going to glue that into the back of there, and then we can sand and smooth that out, and then we'll fill in the back. So I think I'll use a dropper quick setting first of all. So what I want to do here is put that in position and try and kind of hold it there. I'm not really too worried about making a bit of a mess because, as I say, we're going to have to go in with fillers and stuff anyway. So it's always easier if you've got some cement there and then you can move it around. So we're going to grab some tweezers and just move that over. Don't want to have too much to sand in there because it's not the easiest place to get to. Likewise, we don't want to budge that up a bit. Likewise, we don't want to have it too shallow because we'll have to put loads of filler in there. So there we go. What I'll probably do is cut the back of that open, and then I can get in there with a file and file it nicely. It does look to be very well done on the RAF captured one. It's not just a sort of a panel chucked on and riveted round. It looks like it's been really well done by a very good tinsmith. So yeah, if you are building this as RAF with the engine on display, you're going to have to do some surgery to your engine. Still got a little tiny bit of sprue gate on there, so we get rid of that. And then this one can go on. Come on. As I say, it's much easier to get it glued in and then nudge it around rather than just have it floating around in free air. So there we go, we get some cement down in there, there we are. Get it nicely flooded. And then what we'll do with the triangular leg thing there, we'll cut that off. Otherwise that'll probably foul on the engine when we try and fit the cowl. And as I say, this is obviously closed up, so don't worry about the inside. But if you are doing yours with it all opened up, you're going to have to sand and fill, get the inside looking good as well. So there we are. So that's that. What I'll probably do here, it looks like when you look along there, we've got a pretty circular hole. Where are we? There. So I'll probably just put a piece of plastic card in there after I've fouled it all around. I'll cut a disc or cut a piece of rod or a piece of sprue or something, and then we can just blend that in. We've got plenty of time because they don't need to go on for quite a while yet. So we'll leave those to dry, and go from there. So that's a nice little mod to make your mod a bit different, from everyone else's. Right, what are we going to do next? I think we'll have a look at these tail feathers. I'm not sure I want to glue this. I'm not sure I want to glue these wings on yet. I wonder if it would be better to get everything, all the radiators and everything done separately. Let's look at that fit, guys. Look at that fit. Actually, yes, we will, because as I said, I want to get the undercarriage on, get that bulkhead in, get all this area painted, and then we can seal it in and start to give it washes and stuff. So, yes. Right. Let's have a look at some of these tail feathers first, and then that could all be drying back in a bit. Okay, so all those parts are off, all sanded and cleaned up, and the sprue gate's all gone and everything. Now then, if you're a newer modeler, I've got some good little tips for you here. We have to be very careful of ejector pin marks. Now, on the rudder here, there are ejector pin marks all around here, okay? And there are ejector pin marks all around here. Be very careful when you're sanding, because this little bit here you can see on the back of the rudder, that is like, I don't know if it's a little trim tab or something, but that is, don't sand that flat, okay? I've also left the sprue gate on there, which isn't a problem. But if you notice when I throw parts down, it's to get them apart, because when you put parts like this together, and if you're like me, you have no nails, they can be very, look at that, came straight apart, but they can be very difficult to put apart, so just drop them on the bench and then they come apart. And the thing is, if you don't actually remove these ejector pin marks, you will have problems with the fit. Now, I've got my sprue from my other kit, and you can see here, if I can catch this in the light properly, you can see here we have the ejector pin mark, but around it is raised. It's almost like they've polished the tooling, so obviously ground into the tooling, which gives us raised plastic. So when you come to sand this, if I can show you with a pencil, I will. I don't want to use a pen really. Hopefully you can see that pencil lead on there. Yeah, there you go, you can see it now. And if I come in with a stick, I'll come in from the other way actually, and just lightly sand it, you can see from the pencil mark that it's not actually the ejector pin mark you're sanding, it's the raised area around it, so you need to do that. And it's the same here on this fin, okay? It's the same thing here, there's raised areas around the ejector pin marks, and these actually sit on your fuselage over this little extension. Okay, and if you don't remove them, it won't close up. So if you put this together and you can't close the gap at the front, then you know you've got a problem. Just sand those ejector pin marks out. So that's tip number one. The other thing to note is when you look at this fin, you'll think, oh no, my parts are all warped. You look at the rudder, sorry, you can see the top has a kick in it, and it's designed that way. That's the way the aircraft was. The actual fin is like off center. You can see here, it's sort of, the fin is off center. I think it's done to counteract the torque from the prop spinning. But there we go. So don't worry about trying to straighten that and everything. It's not supposed to be straight. It's supposed to be bent like that. I'm not going to worry too much about that sprue gate because we're going to have to deal with this seam anyway. But you can see when the ejector pin marks are sanded out, we've got a perfect seam all around there. So that's good. Okay, right. So returning to the instructions, we've got our tail planes. Okay, so this is the port one. So that one's going to go onto this one. Okay, again I've sanded all these down flat. There's no ejector pin marks to worry about on here because it's a hollow construction. But you can see it's an absolutely beautiful fit. It doesn't need any clamping or anything. Move these parts out of the way for fear of dripping glue on them. So we'll run some cement down there, just like so. I'm going to run a bit the other way now to make sure we got glue in there. Being careful not to get anything on our fingers. Oops, where is the joid? It's on the top. It's an absolutely disgusting day today. It's windy and wet and dark and it's horrible. It's currently about lunchtime, about 12:30. And it looks like sort of 6:30. Yes, 6:30 this time of year. That bloody dark. No, I'm exaggerating. I'm squeezing the parts together to open up the front edge, and that will allow the cement to wick in like that. There you go. So do the other one as well. Okay, give them a little squeeze. Make sure they're cemented all the way around. What you can do is a trick I learned from Phil 4 years ago, is do it this way up, and then you have no risk of the cement running down. But what I would rather do is squeeze them together like this and put the cement in, and when you squeeze them together, as you can see, it opens up the leading edge and it gives you a place to put the cement. And then what we can do is leave these for a good few hours to dry, and we won't need any filler or anything on there. We can even do it on the tip. Look, we can push it, we can squeeze it open. There we go. Okay, so that's that done. Right. And then we've got the elevator there, which is one piece. We've got the rudder bumping down to step 150. For the rudder, you've got this pivot here, this hinge. So that's going to go together like that. And then we've got the other part of the rudder going to go on like that. There's one alignment peg on there, about here on the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is just, if I can, yeah, you can see I can open it up there. Use the cement a little bit sparingly around this hinge. Okay, and then around the back end, we can not worry about being sparing with the glue because it's nowhere near the hinge. And then we'll also put some up here. Whoops, too much. And that hinge feels like it's still free. To be honest, I'm not particularly worried about having working surfaces, but it always makes it better for painting to get the paint in there. But, it feels like it may have some glue on it. Just in case, what I'll do is I'll have it in the, leave it in the straight ahead position. There we go. So that's that. Now I have to fit the tail planes before I fit the elevator, and I have to fit the elevator before I fit the fin, because the fin comes over and forms this sort of, locks that hinge in. So it all has to go in a certain order, so we have to deal with all the seams and everything, wait for everything to dry first. So I'm going to call it a day there. It's been nearly an hour, hasn't it? So I will see you all for part 13, lucky for some, and go from there. But I'm hoping that this elevator isn't all just floppy, then we're going to have to glue it in place if it is. Or I may put some tape around it or something to bind it up, but we shall see. That'll be in part 13. In the meantime, I will get some Mr. Surfacer into here, perhaps look at getting that blended out, and go from there. Right, thank you for watching. I will see you all very soon. Bye for now.